Hey friends, my name is Oleg. This is Mr. Bond. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. In today's video we're going to do a comparison between Monta Oceanking and Ginault Ocean Rover, and I'm going to tell you the 10 differences between the two watches. Now originally the idea was to do a comparison between this Monta Oceanking and my Oris Aquas, but a lot of you requested this specific comparison, Monta versus Ginault. I'm a man of the people, so I give you what you asked for. Here's a comparison between Monta and Ginault. Let's get started. On the left we have Monta Oceanking, on the right we have Ginault Ocean Rover. Let's talk about the differences between the two watches. First of all, let's start with the price. So Monta is priced at $1,970, so $1,970. However, it is currently on sale for $1,745, so $1,745 US dollars. Versus Ginault is priced at $1,300, so $1,299 US dollars. They were initially offered at a lower price, so you could pick them up at about half the retail price, about $600, $700 US dollars if you were willing to do a YouTube review for one of these watches. Now they are priced at the regular retail price. It's difficult to get such a big discount. You could email them and ask for a bit of a discount, but you should expect to pay close to that retail price of about $1,300 US dollars. The second difference between the two watches is the design. Of course, the watches look kind of similar, as a lot of diver watches look similar to each other, and they can also trace their design roots to pretty much the same watch, Rolex Submariner. However, these two watches took a completely different approach to that design and to those roots of Rolex Submariner. Ginault here is an homage watch through and through. You can tell that this watch is very strongly inspired by Rolex Submariner watches, especially the vintage Rolex Submariner watches with that oyster style case. If you saw this watch on someone's wrist from far away, it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to think that that's a Rolex Submariner. Versus what Monta did here, they kind of took some inspiration from Rolex Submariner watches. However, they did their own thing, their own original design. The bezel is different to Rolex Submariner, the dial is different, the set of hands are different. There are a lot of differences between the two watches. One thing that is very significant in terms of the design differences between the two watches, in my opinion, are the way the lugs are designed. So you can see the Monta has thicker lugs, kind of look like the new Super case, the Super Oyster case on Submariner watches, versus Ginault took the approach of more vintage Rolex watches with the slimmer case, and that changes the way the watch wears. I'll do a comparison between how these watches wear on the wrist by the end of the video, so stick around for that. Another design difference between the two watches are the crystals. Both of them have sapphire crystals. However, Monta has a flat piece of sapphire crystal versus Ginault has a domed piece of sapphire crystal. To be honest, I prefer the look of the domed sapphire crystal on oyster cases. Both cases come in with the same diameter of 40 millimeters. In my opinion, Monta wears a little bit larger, and again, I'll demonstrate that when I show the two watches on the wrist. And the last little difference between the two watches in terms of design and size is the thickness. So Monta comes in at 12 millimeters versus Ginault comes in at 14 millimeters, including the domed sapphire crystal, largely because it has this protruding case back, it has the bubble case back, and it also has a domed sapphire crystal. So I think that's the difference between the two. Also, the case shape is different. You can see that Ginault has kind of a sharper lugs, the way the case angles, versus Monta here kind of has lugs that are cut off at the edges, so to speak. The next difference between the two watches are the movements powering the watches. So Monta has their in-house AM22 caliber movement. It's not actually an in-house movement, it's just the name they give to the movements in their watches. So Monta Oceanking comes with two different movements. You can either have Sellita SW300 or ETA 2892 automatic movement. Which one of the two movements you get depends on their supply chain, which movements they have available currently in stock. So if you are buying one of these watches, I would inquire beforehand which one out of the two are you getting, the Sellita or the ETA. Both movements are very reliable, great options, and of course are Swiss-made movements. The Ginault has their in-house caliber 7275 automatic movement. Now this movement is actually an in-house movement, although there is quite a bit of controversy about this movement. Some people say that it is a Chinese clone of ETA 2824. Ginault states that majority of their movement is made in the United States, and it is a clone of ETA 2824, which is a reliable movement. There were some comments on previous reviews of this watch of people saying that their movements were either inaccurate or stopped working. Although Ginault does test their movements before they send out the watches, whenever you get one of these watches, you get like a little card that talks about how they tested the movement over 5 or 6 weeks. So they do regulate the movements, and so does Monta watches. So both of the movements are regulated, and both of these movements in these specific watches are very accurate. I have no problem with either one. However, you should be aware of the differences. The next difference between the two watches are their origins. Monta is Swiss-made watch, versus Ginault is hand-built in United States. Again, there is quite a bit of controversy about this claim, hand-built in United States, and Ginault provided some good reasons why they can't put made in United States on their dial, because United States laws are very strict with that claim. You have to have the watch pretty much 100% built in United States. All the components of the watch have to be built in United States. A lot of people claim that the watches are made completely in China and they just stamp that hand built in United States on a dial as a marketing tactic. I will let you decide and do your own research about the origins of Ginault and whether it is actually hand built in United States or not, and how much of the watch is actually hand built in United States. But the fact of the matter is that the two watches have very different origins. Monta is Swiss made, and Ginault says that they are hand built in United States. The next difference between the two watches are the finishes of the case. So both finishes are satin finish on the top and polished finish on the sides of the case. However, the approach to the finishes are very different. Where Monta took an approach of more rounded off edges with the large chamfering on the sides of the case, with a more softer look to the way the watch is finished, is done really well. It looks great, and it gives an appearance of a high-end watch, because it should. It also has a signed crown at the 3 o'clock position and a screw down case back. Now, Ginault took a slightly different approach to their finish. So here we see more of sharp angles, we see more aggressive brushing, more aggressive satin finish. The execution is excellent, very nice and sharp angles, great polish to the case, great fit between the case and the bracelet. The watch also has a signed crown at the 3 o'clock position with these crown guards and a blank screw down case back. Thanks to the screw down case back and the screw down crown, both watches have 300 meters of water resistance. The next difference between the two watches are the bezels. So Monta has a 60-click unidirectional bezel. Here's the bezel action. Very firm, confident clicks, aligns perfectly, and it also has a ceramic bezel insert that is lumed. This is a great bezel, very satisfying. The only negative of the bezel, and I mentioned this in the full review of this watch, is the fact that it's not the easiest bezel to grip, and it's not the easiest bezel to turn. It has quite a bit of resistance. It's not necessarily a negative for majority of people. Some people like bezel that has good resistance to it. For me, I wish it was slightly easier to turn. Versus Ginault bezel is a unidirectional 120 click bezel. It is an aluminum bezel insert. You can hear that the clicks of the bezel are more tinny. They're not as substantial as Monta watch. It also is one of these bezels where you kind of push down on it and then you turn. It is a satisfying bezel action, but out of the two, I think I prefer Monta bezel action. This one also doesn't have a ceramic bezel insert. It's an aluminum bezel insert with this gold writing. However, I should mention that Ginault is coming out with their Ginault Ocean Rover version 2 that will have a ceramic bezel insert. The two watches have very different approach to lume. Monta employs Swiss BGW9 lume versus Ginault employs their Superluminova C3 lume. Here's a lume shot for you side by side. I think initially Ginault is brighter. However, I think Monta lasts longer, plus it has the advantage of a lumed bezel. Out of the two, I prefer Monta's lume. The next difference between these two watches are the bracelets. At the first glance, the approach to bracelets seems very similar. However, with the closer look, you can tell that the two bracelets are quite different. First of all, the first link. Monta has this female link on a hinge, so it hugs the wrist nicer, versus Ginault has a male first link, so there is a bit of protrusion. It's not too bad. It's kind of similar to what you would see on a Rolex Submariner. Nevertheless, it does protrude a little bit. Ginault also has an oyster-style bracelet. So you can see the way these links fold. Versus Monta has a bracelet that folds in both ways. So a link is kind of an oyster style, but it also folds this way. Again, makes the bracelet a little bit more flowy and a little bit more comfortable. Both bracelets start off with 20 millimeters by the lugs, and then they taper in to 16 millimeters by the clasp. Also, both bracelets have solid end links, solid links, and screw-in-place pins, as well as similar finish. Both bracelets have satin finish on the top and polished finish on the sides. Another difference between the two watches is the clasp design. So let's start with Monta. It has this first guard with the Monta logo. You open it as such. It's a pressure held in place lock, pressure resistant lock, engineered clasp, Monta logo signed on the inside. It's pretty well done. It looks nice. It also has this glide lock style mechanism here. For quick adjustments on the go, you unhook it as such, you adjust it to your desired length, and then you snap it in place. Very easy, very satisfying. So it is very similar to the Rolex glide lock mechanism. Ginault took a bit of a more direct approach to that design. So again, it has a fold over clasp, kind of fits in with the overall fit of the clasp better. So you open it as such. Now this clasp opens with a little hinge. So that's how it's held in place. Very similar to the clasp on a Rolex Submariner. Some might say a complete copy. And this watch has the glide lock mechanism. So the way this glide lock mechanism works the same way as the one in Rolex. You just simply unhook it, you choose your desired length, and then you snap it in place. Very easy, very satisfying, and incredibly useful. So even though the clasp design on both watches is excellent, the approaches that they took are slightly different. And the 10th and last difference between the two watches is the way they wear on the wrist. So let's start with the Monta watch. Here's what it looks like on my 7.5 inches or 20 centimeters wrist. I really like this fit. It's a very comfortable watch. 40 millimeters does wear a little bit larger on this case than it would on the Ginault. Overall, very comfortable and very slim watch at only 12 millimeters. So this one would be great for office use as well as sporting activities. And here's what Ginault looks like on my wrist. First of all, it has those male first links, so there's slight protrusion. On my size of a wrist, you can't really tell, but on a smaller size of the wrist, that would definitely be noticeable. Another notable difference of the fit of this Ginault is the way it protrudes off of the wrist. It sits a bit higher than Monta. It is a thicker watch, and that case back gives it a little bit of a higher protrusion. It's not too bad, it's not awful, but there is a difference between the way these two watches wear. I think out of the two, I prefer the way Monta wears. So that's the video. Those were the 10 differences between Monta Oceanking and Ginault Ocean Rover. What are my thoughts on these two watches? Well, they're kind of mixed, because out of the two, I prefer the Ginault. I like the look of Ginault better. However, I think Monta is better quality, plus it is Swiss-made watch, plus it has an original design. I think whichever one of these watches you choose, quality-wise, I don't think you will be disappointed. I appreciate you watching this video until the end. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss more videos like this, and leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about these two watches. Which one out of the two would you pick? By the way, today on my wrist, I'm wearing my new G-Shock, the G-Shock Royal Oak. I just received it in a mail yesterday. There is an unboxing video for this watch on my Instagram. I will leave a link to my Instagram page in the description below. Please go follow if you want to see that unboxing video, and I will do a full review of this watch on this YouTube channel in the next couple of weeks. Of course, subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss that video. In the description of this video, there are two other links. The first link is a secret link. Have a look if you're curious. The second link is a link to bondnadostraps.com. If you're looking for a good quality NATO strap and want to support this YouTube channel at the same time, buying one of these NATO straps is a good way to do that. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Okay, good boy, good boy. So clean now.
Did you see the spit bubble?
You actually even smell nice. Oh, that's a spit bubble over there. Okay. Okay, that's gone. Couple more, and then we're gonna film, okay?